How many jotos does it take to start a podcast?
3.
Alejandro,
Joaquin,
and Charlie.
amid a pandemic, 3 brown queer men from Los Angeles connected through laughs, tears, and joterias.
Yeah, but that was all last year. A lot has happened since season 1. Now we're coming at you bigger, better, y con más orgullo.
you are about to listen to some of our personal experiences as 3 brown jotos.
Jotángeles, agarren sus bebidas, sus chucherias y súbanle a volumen porque se va a armar.
¿Cómo están, friends? This is Alejandro, and welcome to the Three Brown Jotos Podcast.
Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Charlie.
Hey, what's up? This is Joaquin. Y ahora vamos a hablar de nuestras curvas. O sea, este episodio se llama ¿Qué curvas? Y yo sin frenos. We're going to get into some comfortable and uncomfortable conversations about our bodies and body image. So for some of you, this conversation might be a little bit triggering. So make sure you check on yourself and let's get into it. So, Alejandro, what's your perspective on teniendo tantas curvas y nosotros sin frenos?
Well, I mean, I've always kind of been a stocky guy. I remember being like shopping in the Husky section at the age of like 12, 13. But I also remember how awkward it was because like fitting into certain things, like I can't, like my friend says, friend, I can't help that your body's shaped like that.
I mean, we're going to get into that too, right? Because we talk a lot of shit to each other about
And,
bodies.
you know, I hold a lot of my weight on my gut and across my chest. So like finding pants that fit is no problem, but like I don't have a butt either. So nothing really holds up. You know, it happens. And so I think perspective on body, it's kind of been a long road to get to a point where I'm kind of comfortable. I mean, I remember going to swimming pools and swimming with the t-shirt on as a kid. Yeah. Like not being comfortable going to the beach and taking off my shirt, having to have my shirt as a like safety net for myself because I felt shamed, and maybe not because people picked on me as much, but just that self-thought, that mentality of like, I don't like the way
like the subconscious feeling that we carry, right? Because of the things that we hear and stuff, like even doing that whole like que te estás arreglando la camisa and stuff, like that's
you struggle, right?
Yeah, and I think that just comes like natural instinct, you know, to kind of no te gusta algo, you pull it down, you know.
Okay.
Well, and I know that in our time as being friends, you, Charlie, you like a little snug fit shirt. You like your shirts to be like a little bit on you. And for me, like, I'm still a little uncomfortable. I'd be like, I'm that guy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, we see it like in our culture a lot, right? And we hear a lot of these things growing up too, right? Like as kids, like about like the shaming and like our parents be like, "Y vas a comer otra vez," or like all these different things.
Or even the nicknames they give us. Gordo, ya vente a comer.
Like, ay, ¿por qué estás tan gordo? And then like 20 minutes later, anda, come.
¿Por qué no comes?
Yeah.
No comes nada.
Yeah. For me, like I wasn't always fat. Like like in high school, you know, I did cross country, I did track, so I was like at 130. But I had to embrace my like chubbiness, and I think that's why I was drawn to like the bear community, because I wasn't always like this. I know, trigger. I didn't always like my fitted shirts. Yeah. But seeing these guys so confident in their own bodies, and then like just wearing a shirt like that might be a little fitted, but it looks good. And so for me, I was like, I wish I can have that confidence. And so now like I'm fine wearing snug shirts, and like I always tell my husband, like, cause he likes he doesn't like them snugged. And for me, I like it snug because I want to see his curves. Like, and to me now, it's like very sexy to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, so like I was hearing you talk, Charlie, and like thinking about this concept of like of our bodies and like acceptance and all these things, right? And it also like made me think about like the pressure that we put on ourselves, or the pressure that's put on folk, like to feel like you have to define your body a certain way, or it has to fit a certain mold, or it has to fit into a certain niche, right? Because it's different for everyone. I think the whole conversation is about accepting you for what you have, knowing that it is a process and a journey, right? That sometimes can be discovered on your own, but sometimes like having assistance in that is great as well. Whatever that assistance may be, right, or type of support. support. But I also think that it's important to talk about like the different scope, right? Because a lot of times we talk about like body positivity or we talk about body image and body shaming, and we just look at it from like bigger, softer bodies perspectives. But there's a lot of people who have different shaped bodies, who might be thinner, who might be thicker. You know, a lot of times we think that people who like have a big butt or thick thighs like love it, right? Because everyone's getting BBLs and all these things to get that, but it's not really like that. Some folks are like kind of uncomfortable with that. What are your thoughts around that?
Well, no, I'm glad you brought it up because we can't deny that we do, like, society puts pressure on all of us, whether you're thin, chubby, extra thin, like, you know, oh, you're too thin or you're too big. So there's definitely that part of, so I don't want to deny anyone, and it can really affect people. It can turn you into, it can like lead you to depression and like body dysmorphia, you know, so that's a real issue. And that's where I feel like it comes with confidence, body confidence. You can be the biggest guy or the thinnest guy, but if the confidence is there, then that's sexy as hell, you know, like, but I think it is the pressures that we get from society, from movies, from TV, like how we're supposed like to, yeah, we're supposed to look a certain way. But you want to say something?
It's not necessarily that I want to say something, but I think that you're right. Like society does put a certain image on what certain bodies' limits are or can and cannot do, right? I know that we've talked about sports. Even, you know, on the Honey Badgers, the team that I play for, there's some big boys on that team, and they're just as athletic as any of the other individuals, skinnier individuals, athletic builds. And so I think that it's unfortunate that we put all these stigmas or biases on bodies that are not of a muscular stature or of an athletic build, whether it's they're, you know, extremely lean or on the bigger size. And so it's difficult. And again, I think that it's still a constant for everyone. I mean, I go to the gym every day, not necessarily to work on my body image, but because I have high cholesterol and high blood pressure. And it's one of those things where it's like, and I joke with some friends where I tell Giselle all the time, like, no me quiero morir. Like, and that's the reality. The reality is like, I push myself at the gym to do these things because otherwise I don't want to be unhealthy. Like I want to work on that. And so I don't ever put pressure on any bodies and what you should do. But for me personally, like I have to put in that work in order to live a healthy
and that's your journey, right, friend? Like that's the kind of how you take care of yourself, how you're comfortable in your experience. And one thing that, or one word that we've kind of thrown around is confidence, right? And I think a lot of the times we talk about confidence or what that looks like, or when we see someone and assume immediately that there's confidence behind it, but there's so many things that happen internally. And all that to say, kind of like in your own experiences, how did you become confident or comfortable in, like, say, your body, in the things that you wear? Because I also think that, like, your fashion, the things that you wear play a role into all that confidence and stuff. So I'll shoot it over to you, Charlie. Like, how did you start feeling confident, or when did that come about for you?
I think it I don't know. Like I think it started up until where like, well, shit, I'm not gonna lose weight. Might as well just embrace like my curves, embrace my stomach. But I don't consider myself a fashion guy. I do like to wear like bright colors and shit like that. But I think for me, it's again, it's just confidence. And you mentioned something earlier about you know, you don't feel a certain way, but for me, it's a bigger issue. It's a bigger systemic, like racism. You can be thin, but if you're not white, you still get treated a certain way. Yeah. And so I know I'm taking this the whole different direction. But no, I think that's where society comes into play. And I think like there's a big push for like looking a certain way, but also like your skin color too. Yeah, like if you don't look, like if you're not this light, like maybe you're not as sexy. But I think for me is just really knowing who I am and not giving a fuck what people think about me. And that's why my advice for like if you are struggling with body image or whatever, like all you need is one friend or two friends. Get your fucking bestie, go out, have fun, and like who cares what people think? People are always gonna have opinions about you, so pay them no mind. Like fuck them. Like just have a good time. Like that's, for me, that's what it's all about. What about you, Alejandro?
It's difficult because I feel that the confidence is still a daily thing because, like, you're right, people always have something to say, whether it's negative or positive. And yeah, you try not to let it affect you, but I think you have to build up that confidence. Not only that confidence, but that tough skin as well. Y'all know I'm good for posting a little topless shirt like on the gram. Like, I don't have a problem, but I had to get there. I had to get there.
Yeah, of course.
It's not something that I've always been doing. Yeah. And y'all know, because y'all were like, friend, that's how you get more followers, show a little more skin.
Yeah. First of all, don't try to make it sound like we're over here grooming you. Look at you.
I'm starting my OnlyFans. No, I'm just kidding, friend.
But yeah, friend, I mean, we just need the funds for this podcast.
Listen, but yeah, I think that it's difficult to get to a point where you're comfortable, and sometimes I think that it's come with age too. Yeah. Like, I've gotten to a point where you ain't paying my bills, you ain't doing nothing for me. Like, you have no say so in what I look like, what I wear, how I wear it, and I actually look at you, Joaquin, as like that guy, that person who like really has no fucks given about like what you wear, full titty out, sis, like all of it, like, and it doesn't matter, and you're good with that, and I think that it takes a confident person, unfortunate to say, kind of brave, because we shouldn't have to be brave to be able to walk our authentic selves. But I'm saying, like, there is a little bit of bravery that comes along with it, because you open yourself up to judgment from the world as you walk down the street.
I get what you... No, and thank you, friend. I appreciate that. I do have, like, this thing right around, like, where we say, like, it's brave to do this, because is it really brave, or should we just be able to walk comfortably in our own skin without having to feel like there's this thing that you have to reach, or this, like this platform, right, in order to be like, oh yeah, like you're tough, like you're confident. Like, no, like everyone should just wear whatever the hell they want, right? And I think for me, my experience, I'll talk to you a little bit about like my body stuff, is like it's funny because sometimes I'm like, I didn't grow up knowing that I was fat, if that makes any sense, but I was fat. Because my family was very supportive, like the people around, like, yeah, you heard things, but it was very much about like embrace your body, right? Like, and like, I come from a family that talks a lot of shit, so you have to have tough skin. So we are like very like, nos echamos like carrilla, like we joke around, like we make jokes. So like, that's kind of how my experience has been. So like, not wearing a shirt, to be out in a pool, and like, it's like normal because it's my body, like this is what I'm offering, and you're gonna take it, honey, and so it's very much that experience. I mean, I've had my moments of like insecurity, shame, blah blah blah, but I think it's always like just like, fuck it, like this is my body, like I love it. And I think because my mom, my dad, like our families, we showed each other like how to love ourselves and our bodies, like it's been that experience, because it is very much that. And when we talk about confidence, we talk about, like how it is a journey, right? Like it is, for some people, it's not just like, oh, let me like find some friends that feel confident and I'm gonna feel confident. Like, nah, like sometimes there's more internal work to do, right? Even therapy maybe, because these things can be very traumatic. I did want to kind of touch on a point about what you were saying earlier, Charlie, that really kind of gave me this like thing, right? About when we talk about food and we talk about bodies, like, and we talk about this, we don't talk about like the accessibility and the systematic things that play a role into like our bodies and body image and diets, right? How if you come from like low income families, it's much harder to access organic foods, food that doesn't have all these preservatives or things like that, right? Because you have to go to like these mom and pop shops or to these places that are like dollar stores, because that's what's affordable and accessible, right? So I think that does play a huge role. And then if you even break it down even more, you think about like, how our food, our traditions around eating and all these things have been colonized for such a long time, way back for our ancestors, right? Where food and the way that we fed and nurtured our bodies look different. And then you have like this conquest of our people that goes and changes that diet. And you think, and that continues to happen to this date, right? As you see how many fast food businesses are in like the hoods, right, in our neighborhoods, and the lack of like accessibility to like fresh produce and things like that. So I don't know, what are kind of your thoughts on that?
No, you bring up a very good point. It was a lot. It is a lot, but it's true. Like if you see how many liquor stores there are versus grocery stores in like East LA or like Southgate or HP, and you bring up a very good point. And also too, there's times where we're meant to feel guilty for eating like Mexican food, or meant to feel guilty for eating like our cultural food, like. And I get it, like diabetes is high. We have a high rate of diabetes in the Mexican community.
But we got to address that too, though. So it's like, how do we have our foods, but flip the script where it's healthier, right? Because we also have to change those things in our community for better outcomes.
Right. And whether it's, a lot of times we eat until we're full, and sometimes it's not about that. It's just like portion control. And so, again, I'm not a nutritionist, but I am learning some stuff in school. But it is It is important. It is true, because it comes from like a systemic, and like unfortunately people of color and like that live in the hood, we don't have that many options. We don't have all the options of like, and honestly, and even if we did, fucking organic food is a lot more expensive than like say $1 menu at McDonald's. And so for a single mom or whatever that like needs to feed her children, she's not going to be able to afford organic food.
Is it like, do you spend $15 trying to put a decent healthy meal together, or you spend like $6 on a fucking like pizza and like fucking and feed like your kids with that? You get what I'm saying? Like, there's very much that part of it. How about you, friend?
It's tough because you're right. Like the barriers and the challenges that we have in accessing foods that are healthy for the community is difficult. And you're right, the access to parents or single parent or units that have multiple children that are working multiple jobs to make ends meet, like at the end of the day you may not want to make a whole meal type of situation. And I completely understand those points of views. I mean, in my household it was both my parents working all day long, and so it was nice to have a home-cooked meal with my parents. And you look at going to Mexico, and they're eating natural things, right? Los frijoles, las tortillas, las frutas, right? But I think a lot of it is also very natural. With that said and done, this is Three Brown Jotos out.